Welcome to Waking Up Tired, Narcolepsy Symptoms Explained, a limited podcast series giving voice to what narcolepsy symptoms are like from a patient's perspective. I'm your host, Di Spillane. In today's episode, we're joined by Dr. Aaron Shockman, a lived experience research fellow at the University of Sydney, whose personal journey with narcolepsy has shaped both his academic work and advocacy. From waking up 30 to 40 times a night to navigating the emotional toll of cataplexy, Aaron shares the raw truth behind symptoms that are often misunderstood or overlooked, like disruptive nighttime sleep and the crushing weight of daytime sleepiness. We'll also explore the challenges of accessing effective treatment in Australia, the impact on relationships, mental health, and the power of self-advocacy when the system falls short. This episode is honest, confronting, and deeply human, and it sheds light on why better awareness and support, particularly in Australia, isn't just needed, but urgent. Meet Aaron.
My name's Dr. Aaron Shockman. I'm a lived experience research fellow at the University of Sydney, and my research focuses on narcolepsy. I experienced quite severe disrupted nighttime sleep. So what that means is, for the average person, when you fall asleep at night, you stay asleep or you might wake up one or two times throughout the night. But for myself and someone with disrupted nighttime sleep, you wake up frequently, multiple times a night. For me, most nights it was up to 30 or 40 times. I'd get to sleep for 20, 30 minutes and then wake up and I'd be wide awake. I could fall asleep easily because I was exhausted, but the problem is you fall asleep hoping to get a nice restful sleep, wake up 30 minutes later. And it just made bedtime, nighttime routines horrible hell. The impact on my daily function, ability to stay awake, function throughout the day was also destroyed. And no matter what I did, I went to my doctor, spoke to sleep specialists, and they're telling me, improve your routine, make sure you're not eating before bed, all the things that you do. And I tried, but it constantly awakening throughout the night just made everything turn into a nightmare. So the impact on me just made my daytime sleepiness so much worse. Because I wasn't able to get restful sleep at night, it made the fatigue that I was experiencing worse. Memory and concentration became really, really bad. At the time I was studying and at university when this first started happening, so just my ability to function throughout the day and be productive was completely gone. Now, the impact that I think isn't really talked about is the impact on relationships and people who you're sharing a bed with. The fact that you're waking up 20, 30, 40 times a night, tossing and turning, trying to get back to sleep is also disruptful for anyone that you're sharing a bed with, your partner, whether you're spending a one-night stand, whatever it is. And it becomes very, very difficult to also try to explain what's going on as well, because, narcolepsy itself isn't widely known in the general public. But specific symptoms like disrupted nighttime sleep are a bit of a mouthful, and most people haven't heard of it before. One of the other main impacts of disrupted nighttime sleep is also the impact that it has on your mental health. I mean, we know you need restful sleep, you need sleep in general to maintain or have good mental health, and not being able to actually maintain your sleep cycles, let your body and mind do what it needs to do, has an enormous impact on depression, anxiety, just even general mental health. For myself, journey with narcolepsy, my diagnosis was relatively fast. For most people, it sounds like a luxury because diagnosis can sometimes take between 8 to 15 years on average. But for myself, it was quite fast. And for me, it was the cataplexy that I experienced that led to the fast diagnosis that I got. I also experienced the crushing daytime sleepiness, falling asleep in lectures, falling asleep while driving. So there was also that sleepiness, but with that symptom, it's very unspecific. A lot of people experience sleepiness throughout the day. Doctors experience sleepiness throughout the day. So generally not a symptom that is easy to pinpoint into a specific thing. But for me with cataplexy, I experienced the paralysis that comes with cataplexy whenever I experienced positive emotions, in particular laughing. I used to be quite the jokester. I laugh a lot, go out with my friends a lot, and be the comedic relief. But every single time that I would start to laugh or think of a funny joke or anticipate that jokester attitude, my body would start to become paralyzed. And there's plenty of times where you have partial paralysis, which is sometimes your muscles or my legs kind of like give way a little bit. I'm able to catch myself, but having the full paralysis for a minute or two was terrifying because you're completely conscious. You know what's happening. You might have said a funny joke or done something funny and everyone else around you's laughing. And meanwhile, you've gone face first into the table because you've lost all muscle tone and you've become paralyzed. You're completely conscious, able to hear everything around you. And that symptom for me was, I guess, the easiest for me to pinpoint. I remember going to doctors and my specialist, I think I went to a neurologist at the time, and explained these symptoms and nobody was able to give me an exact answer about it. I remember typing into Google, why do I fall over when I laugh or something like that? Why do I become paralyzed when I laugh? And it instantly came up with cataplexy. So for me, I was then able to go to my doctor and say, okay, this is what I have. I went to the neurologist as well and said, this is what I have. I remember him typing into Google, what is narcolepsy and what is cataplexy? And I was like, great, I could have done that. For disrupted nighttime sleep, I got the diagnosis relatively fast. I think it took around about a year. And the medications that I was started on were dexamphetamine, so stimulant medications, and antidepressants. Medication is only a band-aid for the symptoms. It doesn't actually address any of the root causes for narcolepsy. So I had to increasingly have more and more over the years increase my dosage of stimulant medication. And I think I was on quite a massive dose. I think I was on like 80 or 90 milligrams a day. And because I was having that disrupted nighttime sleep, wasn't getting the sleep at night, my cataplexy also got worse. And I think I was on 300, I think it was. I was on increasing doses of my antidepressants as well at the time. And that was specifically for the cataplexy. In Australia, the most common treatment for cataplexy is antidepressants, and there really isn't anything that's widely available for people to use. And the way they essentially work, the easiest way to explain it is that it kind of controls you experiencing high emotions. So it kind of flattens you down. And for me, I had a terrible experience with antidepressants. I really didn't experience any emotions. And the only emotion that I did experience was increased aggression and anger. Very much a pacifist, and I would be getting into one time, becoming physical with family members and my dad after an argument, and completely out of character. So I had a terrible experience with stimulant medication, antidepressants, also modafinil, another medication that is used to help you feel more awake throughout the day. What did work for me was sodium oxybate. So I was able to access sodium oxybate through a special scheme through my doctor. And that medication specifically is used to treat disrupted nighttime sleep. So it addresses one of the underlying issues people with narcolepsy have, which is the disrupted nighttime sleep. It let me actually get consolidated sleep throughout the night. I wake up maybe once or twice a night. I was able to reduce most of the stimulant medication I was on and was able to stop the antidepressants as well. Having access to that medication was a game changer for me. And without it, I wouldn't have been able to pursue the studies that I'm doing at the moment and get my life back on track. So access to sodium oxybate is extremely limited in Australia, apart from Western Australia. All other states, access is limited. And there are public hospitals which you're able to access sodium oxybate through. And there's information about that on support group and charities like Hypersomnolence Australia, which has a great resource for how to access sodium oxybate. But some public hospitals fund it. If you're not able to get it funded through a public hospital or able to navigate the system, it can cost you up to $20,000 a year, which is an insane amount of money just to get a quality sleep, which is something that every person is entitled to get. If you're on the full dose of sodium oxybate, which most people tend to be, it can cost you $1,800 a month. And even then, that supply of medication or paying that amount of money doesn't actually give you enough medication to last you the entire month. I try to avoid taking stimulant medication only because I have the luxury of being able to work part-time. So my productivity is reduced because I'm not taking as much stimulant medication as I potentially could be. But I found that a lot of the stimulant medication actually was affecting my nighttime sleep as well. I would sometimes take modafinil at 1 or 2 p.m. and I found that it would reduce the amount of actual sleep that I would have at night. in Australia, being able to access your stimulant medications like dexamphetamine or modafinil and antidepressants for cataplexy, those treatments aren't in line with international best practice guidelines. So Australia's quite far behind with what is on offer internationally. The system has to do better because it's really failing people with narcolepsy. There are some new medications in the pipeline as well that have efficacy on symptoms of narcolepsy and addressing kind of the root cause of at least type 1. But I think the system in Australia needs to be a lot better at improving medications that actually work for people and actually improving access and the pipeline to actually commercialize these. Because while it's all well and good to know that it works and it's available overseas and people are using it and it's changed their lives, how is it fair and why do Australians miss out? Before I started to experience any of these symptoms, I had never heard of narcolepsy, and it was only through my own research and experiencing these symptoms that I'd start to look up on Google, speaking to my doctor, my own investigations before I heard of it. When I was diagnosed, I didn't receive any information or support or really explanation about how narcolepsy would impact my life. Definitely been a steep learning curve that even now I struggle with every day. There were some great support groups available, which are around today. And I think that the support that you get from actually speaking to people who are going through similar situations as yourself is invaluable. Raising public awareness of narcolepsy is a huge challenge. I do think awareness of narcolepsy has improved slightly, but we still have quite some ways to go.
That was Dr. Aaron Shockman, sharing a story that's as personal as it is political. From the frustration of being prescribed medication that caused serious side effects to the life-changing impact of sodium oxybate, Aaron's experience reminds us that sleep isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. And for people with narcolepsy, access to proper treatment can mean the difference between surviving and thriving. When I was diagnosed, I wasn't given any real explanation of how narcolepsy would affect my life. No roadmap, no support, just a steep learning curve, and I'm still climbing it. That's why podcasts like this matter, because when the system falls short, connection becomes everything. Now, although public awareness of narcolepsy is growing slowly, we still have a long way to go. If you're navigating similar symptoms, then please, speak to your doctor. This podcast exists to raise awareness, foster understanding, and help others find the diagnosis and support they deserve. Sooner, not later. Join us next time as we continue exploring narcolepsy through real voices and lived experiences. Thanks for listening to Waking Up Tired.